ruthless conspiracy that relies primarily on covert means for expanding its sphere of influence. It is a system which has conscripted vast human and material resources into the building of a tightly knit, highly efficient machine that combines military, diplomatic, intelligence, economic, scientific, and political operations. Its preparations are concealed, not published. Its mistakes are buried, not headlined. Its dissenters are silenced, not praised.
Billions of people just living out their lives, oblivious. Choice is an illusion created between those with power and those without.
I drink your milkshake. I drink it up.
Thank you, John Larson. I receive your kind words on behalf of all of our courageous members of the House of Representatives who want the best for the American people. And what we can do that is best for them in the next 24 hours is to pass affordable, accessible health care for all Americans. The best for all Americans is to have 32 million more people to have health insurance in our country. The best for...
Piece of stinking filth.
Shh, say it again, Shali. This is AJ of the InfoWars. Listen to the Shaliak. This is Alex Jones of InfoWars. Listen to Shaliak on the Cold Reality News and Report.
This is the coolest thing I have ever seen.
Well, hello there!
Annual State of the Nation address to Parliament. He also revealed details about the country's new nuclear arsenal, which he said includes missiles that are too advanced to be intercepted by any existing air defence systems. Our senior correspondent, Murad Gazdiev, explains more about the hardware that's getting Western news outlets so worked up.
If you aren't Russian, the first hour of Putin's speech would have been boring. Taxes and corruption, science and industry, that sort of thing. After that, though, it got real hot, real fast.
Russia is a major nuclear power, but basically nobody wanted to talk to us. Nobody listened to us. So, listen to us now.
Rockets, lasers, nukes in a rush. Putin unveiled an arsenal of new weapons, bigger, faster, stronger, and deadlier than any that came before. The Sarmat Super Heavy ICBM, a 200-ton missile capable of penetrating any existing defense, in service at the end of the year. Next, an enigmatic new development, a seemingly nuclear-powered cruise missile. It flies extremely low to avoid detection and can hit almost anywhere in the world, says Putin. Up next...
It's just fantastic.
An underwater drone submarine, also nuclear-powered with a nuclear payload. It can reportedly lurk underwater for months and months, silent and nearly undetectable. Next, the avant-garde, the hypersonic missile, extremely fast rocket that can actively dodge and evade anti-missile defenses.
It is heading for the target like a meteorite.
To top all of that off, laser weapon systems, though Putin didn't go into detail, saying only that it's still classified. The Russian president says all of this isn't to intimidate or scare anyone or invade anyone. These are serious weapons designed for one thing: restore and guarantee Russia's strategic power in an age where an ever-expanding NATO is trying to nullify it.
We have no plans and have never had plans to use this potential to achieve offensive or aggressive ends. Russia's enhanced military power is simply a guarantee for peace on our planet, for it preserves.
Restore parity in the world. Show that there's no point in engaging in a senseless arms race. After all, mutually assured destruction has kept the world safe for the best part of a century.
President Putin's speech caused an alarm in much of the Western media, with many outlets accusing Russia of risking another Cold War. Here's how he addressed the coverage in an interview with America's NBC News.
The White House and the country learning of that new threat from Russian president, warning his adversaries, and in the West in particular, not to mess with Russia.
Computer graphics of missiles flying over mountains and heading over oceans.
And he says he's not bluffing.
Several analysts in the West have said this is the declaration of a new Cold War. Are we in a new arms race right now?
My point of view is the individuals who have said that a new Cold War has started are not really analysts. They do propaganda. If you were to speak about arms race, then an arms race began at exactly the time and moment when the U.S. opted out of the anti-ballistic missile treaty.
Vladimir Putin also said that the new weapons serve to counteract Washington's deployment of missile defense systems in Alaska and California. NATO is also expanding further into Eastern Europe, with 2 sites set up in Romania and Poland. New locations are soon to be established in Japan and South Korea as well. We spoke to several political commentators. They told us that President Putin's speech was about emphasizing that Russia has an effective and up-to-date nuclear deterrent.
These are not designed for warfighting. These are designed to send a very clear message that President Putin said quite clearly, which is that these systems are basically saying, if you mess with us, we will nuke you and we will not hold back. Now, that is a strategic statement. It's not a statement about escalating to de-escalating, which is what the Russians are often accused of and were accused of officially by the American government.
For decades after the Cold War, the USA really did rule the world, and that balance of power is now shifting, with Russia coming in with many other major players. From what Putin is saying, and I hope he's absolutely right, that this is a deterrent against the American-led defense system. And that's a really important, effective tool to have.
I don't see an intensification of hostile talk or scheming and planning as in the cards. It's very reasonable to expect that in the short term there will be a calling upon Moscow to re-enter into overall full landscape arms negotiation talks. That is certainly the greatest likelihood, and it's certainly what Vladimir Putin is looking for.
Well, the US State Department spokeswoman was sure that the visuals shown during Vladimir Putin's speech actually depicted a nuclear attack on the US. Heather Naud even snubbed a Russian reporter who tried to challenge her on it. And it's not the first time she's issued caustic responses to journalists working for Russian media.
It was not attack in the United States. It was 2 missiles sent to different directions. So why do you say that they are taking out? Sorry, I'm from Russia.
You're from Russia TV too. Yes. Okay. Enough said then. I'll move on. They're not officials of the Russian government. They're just asking a question about Russia. Oh, really? Okay. Directed by the Russian government. The fact that you're here as a representative of the Russian government, so-called news organizations, Russian news, if you will. Ms. Redaway Green. Hi. Jacqueline. Hi, Jacqueline. You know what? I don't know if you all are working for RT today or what, but We've got to go. I will talk to you after the meeting. No, the Iraqi Parliament voted Wednesday to call for a timetable for the Iraqi for foreign troops.
It could be a pivotal Sunday.
This week on Cold Reality Radio. Putin Is his back against the wall? Or is he just playing his role en route to World War III? The Italian election, more continuity of agenda, economic issues, massive immigration. The Oscars tonight, we're going to hear about gun control. We're going to hear about all these social or socially engineered issues that have been created for your revolutionary Civil War. Revolutionary Civil War. Is that possible? Man kills self outside of White House. More theater. YouTube hits InfoWars with third strike as the fight goes nuclear. Germany finally gets their government, and Merkel still stands 13 years in charge. Another bloodline member. China says it does not want a trade war with the USA after the tariffs. Aircraft carrier heads to Vietnam with message for Beijing. MI5 agents can commit crime in the UK, the government reveals. YouTube says it has no plans to ban Alex Jones. Israel is now arming 7 rebel groups in Syria. That and more on today's edition of Cold Reality Radio, here on the UCY.TV broadcasting network on this Sunday, March 4th, 2018. So you have to ask yourself a number of questions when you listen to international news, because you just can't believe that these other corporations are really, really moving towards the side of humanity and to be on the right side of history. You know, is Putin, has he changed his ways? You know, him being part of the intelligence agencies over there. You know, we had our own, George H.W. Bush here, who was a CIA and then, became, one of the bloodline presidents. Okay. So we understand why these people would do these things that, nothing works like family, especially when there's so much at risk. Because if one goes down, they all go down. So they protect one another. They keep their secrets. and they do not reveal what, should not be revealed. So we look at Putin and we say, who is he really? Is he really fighting for good? Meanwhile, we have so much death and destruction in the Middle East. This 6-7 year proxy war that has been fought to, like was said by the general, Wesley Clark. You can play it over and over again if you like. But ultimately, the turning point was the 9/11 attacks, and 6 out of the 10 9/11, and you figure it's a pretty good percentage, pretty good factor. 6 out of the 10 said that there needs to be another investigation. The other 4, and to this day, I haven't even really truly, these people are just puppets on a string. Okay. But it has to be that there has to be a certain amount of people in that 9/11 commission that will say, and you figure half and a little bit more, little bit more, would say, I'm not, red flag here, red flag there. Boom. So it all starts with 9/11, and then Afghanistan, and then Iraq, the Iraq, and the Iran. But you need the trigger. You need the tipping point to manufacture consent. And everything that has happened since fall of 2001 has been because of the fall of 2001. And so many people, many people that you will never hear their names have said, this is, they're lying. This was strategic. Drills simultaneously occurring at the same time, just like many other staged events. It's very hard for people to understand. It's very hard for me to, I don't want to sound like Alex Jones, putting so much on the line here, putting so much on the line. As I said, he's got a lot to lose too, because and I'm sure that if things get really nasty and people tried to take him out in some way, shape, or form, people in the know, people not in the know, he will disappear to, he's probably got a bunker somewhere where he's going to chill. He's got a end game plan, I'm sure. But if you go back in time, the same type of just disintegration took place in Russia And it led to, of course, the Bolsheviks. Okay, so that's what we're kind of seeing here this type of blueprint's been run so many times. You can't say that it was one. You can say that it was 1.0 as far as the 1900s, or would that be the 20th century? And then Germany being the next strategic initiative. But do we really know? Do we really, really, really know what happened in those situations? And we fought alongside of Russia to a certain extent to be able to disintegrate the Third Reich. And there's all kinds of information floating around. So I keep my mind open to all of these different possibilities. Much like today, Assad is being demonized for his allowing all different types of people to live peacefully, from what I gathered from what a number of people who really, really study Middle Eastern culture, whereas Assad allowing Jews and Arabs and all of these, and for the most part, a lot of these people are the same. They think they're Jews, but they're something else. And then maybe even some of the Arabs are Jews, and but then again, you study a lot of what Clint has gone over, like what is a Jew and how come there was never really, so many different things that have taken place that have been used to really kind of dominate and control the world, in the sense of, the Holy Roman Empire, portraying themselves as, being the vicar of Christ, being, the face of God. Such horrific bullshit for anyone to try to roll out against the world. But you figure, hey, if we're going to do it, we're gonna need to do it. And speaking from the sociopath, from the psychology of those that which you imagine, those that which to dominate mankind, to create, the Holy Roman Empire, to be like, God's going to do this, God's going to do that. The sun hasn't come out in a little while, so we're going to sacrifice, the Crusades and all these other different things that happened. And of course, you got your Knights Templars and all these other people, these proxy armies, basically, you would imagine, that would defend the criminals. I got to point out something. Another incredible documentary on RT about thalidomide, or the name, and that's another thing they did. It's thalidomide, but then there's the I forget what is it. I'll pull it up here, but just to show you how not only was the creation of not only the creation of this group that basically says, hey, we are the vicar, the Pope being the vicar of Christ, just an absolute joke. Really, I mean, they must sit back and just laugh at how people fawn over all the popes that have always been. And it's really just been a collusion between them, you figure the Jesuits, and then, of course, the chosen, and all this. So all this hellacious just bullshit that has been misinterpreted on purpose, rewritten on purpose, because most, including myself, would not know how to read these scriptures, the Bible, Old Testament, New Testament, whatever, would not be able to interpret it the right way because we've been led into a just bullshit scenario where these people have already done it. These people have already, figured this stuff out. So just listen to them. They've read the Bible. There's not a lot of people that I've not. I wouldn't know how to interpret it. It would bore the shit out of me, quite honestly. But for those that have, and those that have studied it and interpreted it the correct way, or close to the correct way, all law is based off of it, to interconnect this legal disease, this man's law, to link it in with God, and to link it in with all this basically just crimes against nature, crimes against babies. It's just criminality. And so this thalidomide that was that was pushed out as a sleeping pill, that basically said, that those pregnant women should not. So they covered this up, and even like one of the judges in Germany, where this, it was here in the U.S. too. Like Patrick Jordan has pointed out any number of times, this militarized chemical and biological attack, the Archon virus, many different aspects of it, many different elements. So these women that took this so-called sleeping drug, and years from now, all these other new drugs we're finding out, we're seeing all these new diseases, we're seeing all these new birth defects, things like these children were born with, mostly just arms that were deformed. Watching this documentary this morning, most of the people would, you would see their arms mainly just underdeveloped, just some could use, but their hands still, but just incredibly awful looking. And just imagine the child, growing up like that. And then it's, of course, the thalidomide maker, hushed up drug side effects. German report says So this documentary, and what did they call? I'm trying to. And that's another thing with the name of the drug, and then the actual how it's marketed with a completely different name, which I'm not even really seeing here after. I saw it this morning, but it's just not clicking with me. Thalidomide marketing name. Let me see. Thalidomide marketing. I still don't see it in here. It's like Contergan or something like that. It's just amazing how you just don't even see it in here. All these hits, and you don't, if I see the name, if I see it visually, I'll be able to tell you what it is. But Contergan. Let me go to RT and then over to because the name of the documentary is has the name of the marketed drug name in it. Where the hell is that? Op-ed. And then let me go over here to. So again, there's a lot of really, really good. Really good programming over on RT if you want to get like a different, boom bust for financial. Even the Larry King show can be good. Crosstalk, obviously. I don't know where Tom Hartman went, but the big picture is now run by Holland Cook. This Sophie Shevardnadze has a show, Sophie Co., who she interviews a lot of very influential and flattering titles. Worlds Apart, Redacted Tonight with Lee Camp. Everybody, I think, knows who Lee Camp is. Of course, Watching the Hawks, Going Underground with that Afshin Ratansi. He interviews a lot of interesting people. America's Lawyer, with Mike Papantonio, talks about Monsanto and their attacks and poisoning of society. On Contact with Chris Hedges, minus he loves the climate change. He loves to just deal with climate change all the time and not realizing that it's another scam from the system, from the same elite who are destroying society. They've also lied about. So either he's in on it or he just doesn't know. Alex Salmon Show, former First Minister of Scotland. He could be one of those Scottish Rite Freemason pedophiles. Who knows? And of course, The World According to Jesse. I was a Navy SEAL. Now I've got a show on RT. So let's go over to the documentaries. If we go on RT, what is this? Cryptolium. Any number of different things here. Go over two black men a week. Some statistics are spine chilling in the USA. A young man has 21 more chances to get killed by the police than a young white man. Every week, two black men would be shot by police. If you watch some of these documentaries, a lot of this stuff's drilled into law enforcement, and that's why these so many horrible things are happening, because not only the destruction of the economy, which is global, the global destruction of the economy, causing more crime. And we've been manipulated throughout the years. There's actually less, gun violence than there used to be. Overall. But Sex, Drugs, and Refugees, that's another documentary over there where Syrian teenagers in Athens, because they've been displaced by NATO and this world system, knowing that they want to get these young men of fighting age out of Syria because they know if these young men were able to fight for Syria or, for what is right, they wouldn't have a chance. These 7 organizations that Israel's backing now. So these Syrian teenagers in Athens resort to prostitution for survival. As night falls in Athens, the city squares turn seedy, and middle-aged European men can be seen chatting with teenage Syrian boys, seemingly odd pairing of friends. Many of these youngsters are refugees who have resorted to selling themselves to be able to survive after being run out of their own corporations. I steer away from saying country because. And maybe, Syria is a country and it's being, and these proxy armies are turning them into a, the corporation. Behind closed doors, here it is, the Contergan scandal. Until the 60s, the sleep-inducing drug was mass-produced and distributed worldwide. But after ingestion of the drug, many expectant mothers experienced stillbirths, and those who managed to bring their pregnancies to full term gave birth to children with incredible disforming birth defects. And they knew this. It's very hard for people to understand. That things like this would be done on purpose. These are tests that they've done over the years to see how badly they could fuck you up. What is this here? Waiting for Giraffes, really bizarre documentary, but also quite telling in some ways. Who is more restrained in? I don't even know how to pronounce that. Qualia, the citizens or the zoo animals. The village is, for the most part, surrounded by Israel's wall. Many zoo animals were killed during the intifadas. Most recently, let me click on this. Most recently, a giraffe couple were killed. The situation is, let's see. The situation is dire. Dr. Sami, the zoo's vet, would like to bring life back to the zoo by getting new giraffes, but the political circumstances and the incredible task of meeting European zoo standards are putting the resourceful vet to the test. And of course, the Israeli government allows this zoo to exist. Just so you know. All right, so we've got here the true colors of U.S. universities, more of the brainwashing here that we really truly need to understand what's happening here, because as I've said before, these young minds are being weaponized in these universities. It is part of the agenda. It is part of the curriculum to weaponize these students. And not a lot of them get involved in that, but enough. And again, when we talk about the event where, the Nazis came out, and then the people out there, I think it was about the taking the statue down, and then the young girl got killed. I want to say somewhere in Virginia. I forget that, but anyway, the film reveals a dazzling and obscure system of American university campuses, a world of money, influence, but also stress, decadence, excess, where alcohol freely flows and where drugs circulate. We follow the students every day in their steps, in hopes. Their secret rituals, and their wildest sprees. And so there's another documentary now about how only certain people can get loans to go to school. So education is now it's stepped into another level of attack, of weaponization, whereas, you could go to school and be indoctrinated slowly, whereas now it's, you can't go to school, you're not going to get a loan, you're not going to get this. And so now they're creating the class creation has taken a completely new face. It's becoming more and more clear that that education, it's never been about creating the unique, the unique type of individual, really truly there to collectivize and create a singularity, if you will. I mean, the singularity is pretty much already here. I think what they're saying as far as singularity is we're going to get the rest of you. and if not, then we're going to kill you. Or the robots that we create or the AI is going to kill you. Goyim. All right, so let's take a look here. So the Contergon was the marketing name for thalidomide. Ukraine on Fire reveals the historical premises of the ongoing Ukrainian crisis, stir up the ills of the past, much like what's going on in South Africa right now, where they're saying, and we've had Simon Rush on here before, just the other day, he was on with Melonhead, Alex Jones, where Jones kept on interrupting him, and then Jones said, "Why don't you just leave?" And Rush just fucking went off, man. He was like, "No, we are staying here. We are going to do what we have to." And I mean, it was like it sent fucking chills up my spine. Sightlanders, I think he was on, Christ, I want to say October or November of last year, because I met him in July and got his information and saw him speak about what's the genocide that has been predicted in South Africa. So I'm not saying that. I think all these people are in the place that they are today, whether the land belongs to the black families that were there, that were run out by the British. This was all set up and now the wound that's the scar with a little fucking wound on it is now being reopened. And that's what these organizations do. That's what these black ops do all over the world. They reopen wounds, just like Ukraine. The ongoing Ukrainian crisis, the current political backdrop, and its dangerous potential for the world due to the copyright restrictions. This video can only be viewed on RT's live feed, but you can also see this on Prime, and probably some other bootleg sites or something where you can watch Ukraine on Fire and show how the State Department. The U.S. corporation State Department spent incredible sums of money in the billions to destabilize and get a democratically elected leader thrown out. Another documentary, Beauty and the Bleach, where in Senegal, and Senegal hasn't been ruled by France for over half a century, but its former colonizer still sets the tone here. Nowadays, that's not only true in terms of clothing, but skin color as well. Senegalese girls want to look like Europeans, so they wipe these toxic chemicals on their body, and they're already beautiful. You know what I mean? Some of them are really, really dark. Some of them are, brown skin or whatever, but they're really, really beautiful. But they've been brainwashed into thinking that they're not going to get this or they're not going to get that in life unless they look like, a light-skinned black, or like, fucking retard, what's her name? Jay-Z's wife, whatever, these fucking idiots, morons. Not the Senegalese, but let's see here. What else? Art at the Stake. A lot of just really letters from Generation X. Shattered side effects of prescription psychiatric drugs are exposed in the sobering documentary, which sensitively weaves together accounts of the lives destroyed by medicines. The father who killed his two twin granddaughters. I mean, just unfucking believable. These drugs are destroying people, making them hurt themselves or hurt others. I heard this story about hockey player, what was his name? Richardson. Last name Richardson. He actually played for the Philadelphia Flyers, a lot of other, I think he's playing for Ottawa now. No, the Islanders. Luke Richardson. And his daughter, and I don't know whether she was on any kind of antidepressant, because they said there was no signs of anything. There was no signs of her having these struggles. I mean, she hung herself. She hung herself in the garage, and then later died from the injuries from the hanging. And so now there's just no sign of this beautiful young woman. They have two daughters, and she just hangs herself. And never said anything to anyone. Never said, I'm having issues or whatever. She just kills herself. Sometimes, in today's society that is so destructive and so diseased that even people that aren't poisoned, touched by these pharmaceutical monsters and their elixirs and petroleum based death pills, sometimes that's not even needed for people to just end it completely. Let me see. They even do, red tourism back to USSR, red tourism, the time machine. Now, here's the thing. Now, I want to study this some more because I want to be fully aware. Because if the narrative of the past and what happened to Russia, and any number of times you've heard Melonhead Jones say we need to apologize to Russia for all these different things that were done to them through us, with scumbags like Trotsky and Lenin. If they think that if the people in Russia think that Lenin or any one of these people that became the leaders of Russia after 1917, if they actually think that these people I really want to know more about this. I really do. And I think I'm going to probably try to reach out to some historians or some people to try to find out more about it, because if they think, if their history is riddled with these Western installed so-called leaders over there, then you can see even more how this continuity of how we're moving closer and closer to a third world war is completely, again, continuity of agenda, and that even Putin is in on it, and that they're moving in that direction to fulfill the agenda. And so, that's that finding that out would be equally as disturbing, as even more disturbing than the already disturbing state of affairs. If anybody out there, thank Christ I haven't been in the chat room for forever. Let's see here. Reach out there. See what's going on. All right, so it doesn't start playing right away. Let me see here. Let me get over to that. UCY.TV, Cold Reality Radio here on this Sunday, March 4th, 10:50 a.m. on the East Coast of Night America. And oh man, I haven't shined in it forever. Oh man, hope I remember the password. There you go. Wow. And here, I have not been over there in forever. So, hello all. Chem Trailer, 8 Hawks. I'm a lone frog. Hope you're not drinking the water with all those chemicals in it. You know what happens to frogs that drink those, those chemicals. Anyway, appreciate your attendance today. So, I mean, what are your thoughts on that? Do you think that this agenda is already in place, and that Putin and these guys are that they're just doing all this stuff? I mean, that they're doing all this stuff by design? Do you think that that Putin is doing the right thing by Syria? Is Syria fighting for its life? Or is this just part of what needs to happen for the deformed history books and the deformed minds of those who think that they know history to say, oh yeah, it was Russia that did this or Russia that did that, and then that's what they, of course, going forward, the lies. There you go. There's a gold star for you there. But oh, really? Is that? Can you send me a link on that? I'm assuming that Jeffrey Sachs is Goldman Sachs. If that's the case, if Goldman Sachs is involved in any of their transactions over there, then possibly my greatest fears for world peace are, yeah, Beyonce, right? Yeah, what's this? Yeah, that is quite possibly the most ugliest face that I've ever seen any woman make. Ugh. All right, thank you. Forbes. All right, let's take a look at this. Listener participation. I like it a lot. I like it a lot. Continue the article. All right, I'm going to continue. What sanctions? JP Morgan and Goldman Sachs become top 3 investment banks in Russia. April 25th, 2017. And there's Jamie Dimon staring into the picture saying, we're robbing everybody. I'm a fucking parasite. My name's Jamie Dimon. I should be murdered in daylight. Someone forgot to tell you that Russia is capitalist now, and we live in a global economy where money has all sorts of ways of moving around. The big bad Russian capital market is back, not as wild and woolly as before, but it is luring American firms again, this time propelling JP Morgan and Goldman Sachs subsidiaries into the top 2 and 3 deal makers in the country. They've collected more broker and underwriter fees this year so far than they did last year. Broker fees are exactly what Carter Page earned in a Rosneft deal. Page is the Trump campaign foreign advisor who is consistently held up as an example of the Trump team's connections to the Russians. His connection to the Russians is legally different than Morgan and Goldman, but brokering a deal in Russia, come to find out, is quite legal. Wall Street investment houses would like more of it if they could get it. So, I mean, there you have it. There you have it. So, I mean, it's pretty much it's all smoke and mirrors, folks. It's all smoke and mirrors. History is already written, it appears. Already written. Let's see. Both Goldman and JP Morgan offices in Moscow lead the leaderboards of deal makers this year as of April 20th. Deals that they have participated in include but are not limited to equity offerings, bond issues, and loans. Investment banking deals rose 32% in the 12 months ending April 20th compared to the same period in 2016. According to Madison Avenue-based consulting, Freeman and Corp. So, I mean, these guys need to check their writing. So they left a 2 out. According Madison Avenue, obviously it should be according to, but you can read into that. Those 2 name brand investment houses have been riding the trend all year. What makes them not run afoul of sanctions, and this may be more matter of political will than letter of the law, is that the money received stays in Russia or is sometimes moved offshore to Hong Kong, some industry insiders say. As far as the top banks go, VTB Capital was the market leader again with 18% of the market share in investment banking fees, or about $16 million as of the 20th of April, 2017. Goldman and Morgan's appearance on the board marks the first time either of them have appeared in the top 3 in 5 years, IntelliNews reported. JP Morgan trails VTB with 11.4% of the share, or about 10 million. If you're looking at the post-sanctions short term, the markets look pretty strong. Jeffrey Nazoff, a vice president at Freeman tells News. Interestingly, we saw the Western banks getting on some of the major deals this year. Goldman, Credit Suisse, and Morgan Stanley led Detsky MIR IPO a couple months ago. Detsky MIR is the Toys R Us of Russia. They're going to make more poison toys. One of the reasons investment banks are sanctioned entities in Russia are desperate to see sanctions removed. I'm sorry, I'm reading that wrong. One of the reasons investment banks and sanctioned entities in Russia are desperate to see sanctions removed is so they can move money out of the country. This is particularly true for investment companies with money currently tied up in country, either in bank accounts or as equity and collateral deals based on illiquid assets like real estate. So, I mean, there's so much in here. I don't understand a lot of this banking lingo, but they certainly do. They certainly understand. So, it's all orchestrated. All orchestrated. God, it's so discouraging to know that we're just all fucking puppets on a string, man. We're all just puppets on a string. Let's take a listen to this.
The bloc's fourth largest economy takes to the polls. It's being seen as reports from Rome.
Well, it's a highly chaotic and unpredictable election here in Italy. Analysts have said that you need a magic ball to be able to determine what's going to happen here following this election. In terms of the political spectrum, we have it all. On the center-right, the Forza Italia party in coalition with the right-leaning Lega. We also have on the center-left the Democratic Party, as well as the anti-establishment Five Star Movement, and a handful of other parties that are also partaking in this election. Now, this is a system that's completely new as Italy goes to the polls using an election law that has previously been untested here. Not only does it encourage parties to form coalitions before the election takes place, but it also makes it highly unlikely for anybody to come out with a majority. Now, this is an election that even Italians themselves have described as confusing.
It was pretty complicated. It was a bit unclear, and there will be consequences.
While you are trying to gain the trust of voters, creating a mess like this amounts to a real sham.
And in terms of the issues, really one of the bigger ones here in Italy has been immigration, which has left nobody indifferent, with all sorts of opinions flying around about this topic. We do know that some of those parties have even promised to expel as many as 600,000 migrants. Another huge topic here is the economy, because not only does Italy have a big public debt that makes up 135% of its GDP, the second highest in Europe, but unemployment is really high. The economy itself has been quite stagnant over the last several years. Unemployment is high, especially among youth, at about a third. And all of these issues taken into account, we can be safe to say that the rest of the European Union is watching closely what's going to be happening here. The polls will be closing at 11 p.m. local tonight, and exit polls will start trickling in then. This will come from the Interior Ministry, which is right behind me. And of course, we will be watching how that unravels throughout the night.
Russia's military says 2 children have managed to escape the besieged Syrian district of eastern Ghouta 5 days after Russia set up a humanitarian corridor to help civilians leave. It says, though, that militants in the enclave have been preventing others from escaping and are using the people there as human shields. The UN Security Council earlier adopted a resolution demanding an immediate 30-day ceasefire across Syria. Russia sees the opening of a humanitarian corridor and the establishment of a ceasefire window as a step towards implementing that call. But so far, fighting has continued to rage between regime and opposition forces. We spoke to a number of aid workers stationed at a government checkpoint close to eastern Ghouta about the plight of the civilians there.
I'm here with the Syrian army, and I'm ready to help leaving eastern Ghouta. We have ambulances here.
We stay here around the clock to provide first aid to people from eastern Ghouta. Our medical labs also work 24 hours. We have provided vehicles equipped with all modern facilities. Medical workers are also ready.
There were some people who wanted to leave eastern Ghouta, but all of a sudden we only saw gunmen opening fire, using mortars to intimidate civilians.
Eastern Ghouta is located just outside of the Syrian capital, Damascus. It's been occupied by various rebel and Islamist groups for years and under siege since 2013. And here, to the north of Ghouta, is a refugee camp that it's hoped fleeing civilians can be relocated to. Efforts to provide safe passage for those desperate to escape are being coordinated with the Syrian Red Crescent. Buses and ambulances are on standby. People inside the insurgent-held enclave are being notified about the location of the corridor via leaflets, text alerts and loudspeakers. First aid points have also been set up near its exit in an attempt to help those in need of urgent medical assistance. The situation in the district has provoked heated debate at the UN Security Council.
The fighting has not stopped.
The opposition groups operating in eastern Ghouta have made clear their commitment to the ceasefire.
On the very first day, the militants used the declared pause to start an onslaught. On the second day, the same. Mortar shelling has continued, including of the humanitarian corridor. Not a single person has left the danger zone.
There were reports that the Assad regime once again used chlorine gas as a weapon.
I'm tired of asking this, but do you understand how pointless it would be for Damascus to use chemical weapons, both from a military and a political standpoint? Whereas for the militants, it would make perfect sense. I think you understand this perfectly well, but you persistently look for a pretext for an armed intervention.
Russia does not get to unilaterally rewrite the terms of the resolution.
If Russia is able to deliver a 5-hour pause, let it deliver a 24-hour one.
Our Western partners are portraying the situation as if the resolution applies only to Damascus and to Russia, as if it all depends almost exclusively on the will of our country. May I ask you what you have done to implement the resolution? Have any of you lifted a finger? Have you used your influence on those who you consider the moderate opposition? Have you persuaded them to lay down their weapons and release hostages?
So who is playing with fire? The one who is playing with fire is the one who is providing weapons, who is providing mercenaries, who is financing them, who is providing media coverage for them, and trying to show that what is happening in Ghouta is a masada, is a big massacre of innocent people. What they care about is those whom they had supplied arms, whom they had financed, whom they had been breeding in the last few years, and now they have lost the war. But they don't have the same courage to admit that they lost the war to withdraw. They just keep on bargaining and making all those claims.
Many media have been quick to compare the situation in eastern Ghouta with what was seen in the previously besieged Syrian city of Aleppo. But, as Igor Zhdanov explains, they tend to overlook a number of inconvenient truths.
President Assad and his Russian ally are accused of unleashing all-out war against the people of Ghouta.
Russia and the Syrian government are launching an offensive.
Assad's army has fired hundreds of missiles and mortars on civilian homes and hospitals.
Hospitals are targets in Syria, and the regime has been bombing them ruthlessly.
Among all things, East Ghouta is one of the last jihadi bastions. Just like Aleppo, it's been a long-time den of the Nusra Front and the likes. And since then, Nusra and its allies have only been getting cozier there. Militias in East Ghouta have a record of forcing civilians to sit tight amid the fighting, and the worse it is for them, the better.
The evidence indicates that non-state armed groups in eastern Ghouta, and in particular Jaish al-Islam, are also responsible for inflating the price of food and other basic necessities there, arbitrarily restricting the movement of civilians wishing to leave, and abducting and arbitrarily detaining people.
Human shields is a tactic favored by all terrorists, including those who were in Aleppo. And just like in East Aleppo, there are no Western reporters in rebel-held Ghouta. Reporters' shoes are filled by young prodigies.
That was Aleppo and in the siege.
This is what happens to the general, the country seat of Damascus, and especially in Eastern Ghouta for 7 years ago by the terrorist Assad regime.
The White Helmets, a group marketing itself as a civil defense initiative. Their volunteers work at bomb sites as diligently, it seems, as they have at the scenes of jihadist executions. Wherever jihadi factions fester, they bring the White Helmets in tow. East Ghouta, like Aleppo, is no exception.
A Palestinian youngster claims he was forced to lie about how he got a serious head injury so that he'd be released from Israeli custody. The details when the weekly returns in a couple of minutes.
War hawks selling you on the idea that dropping bombs brings peace, to the chicken hawks forcing you to fight in the battles that they suck.
The news hawks try to tell you that celebrity gossip and tabloid versailles are the most important news of the day.
While the hawks of advertising tell you that you are not cool enough unless you buy their product.
These are the hawks that we, along with our audience, will be watching.
I would still like to believe, for the sake of everyone and for the sake of peace and stability, that whether it's the Russians or the Americans or the Pakistanis or the Indians or the Afghans, by and large, hopefully our objective is the same, which is peace and stability within the region. Now, if that is the goal, then clearly, whether it is within Afghanistan or for the region, the long-term presence of foreign troops inside Afghanistan territory cannot bode well for the region or for Afghanistan.
Welcome back to the Weekly. A Palestinian teenager allegedly hit in the head by an Israeli rubber bullet in December says he felt pressured to change his statement about the incident in order to avoid a longer period of detention. Mohammed Tamimi, who's still being treated, was arrested on Monday in a dawn raid on a Palestinian village. 9 other people were also detained during the operation for having taken part in anti-Israel demonstrations. The day after his release, though, Israeli authorities published an official Facebook post claiming the boy's injuries was the result of his falling off his bike and was self-inflicted. It went on to say that there is a culture of lies and incitement within the boy's family. Here's Mohammed's account of what happened at the police station.
They arrested me at my home at 3 a.m. They put handcuffs on me and my brother. Then they took us to their camp. When I was arrested, I felt like I was going to be sentenced, and they made me afraid. When we arrived, they took us to the interrogation, and they hit me while they were interrogating me. When I went to the interrogation place, I heard people shouting and getting beaten, and there were little kids there. The officer started shouting at them to confess, and also shouting at me. They started asking me why my face is like this and saying, "You look funny," and said many things about me. I told them I fell off my bicycle. When I was injured, I climbed the wall thinking they were gone. And as soon as I looked over, I was shot right here. And then I passed out, and I don't know what happened.
In response, Mohammed's family released medical records that apparently show a bullet lodged in the back of his head. The documents show he underwent surgery, during which part of his skull was removed. Mohammed is currently waiting for another operation. Just an hour after Mohammed was first injured, his cousin lashed out at an Israeli soldier she said was responsible for the boy's injuries. Images of the incident went viral and propelled her to international recognition as a symbol of Palestinian resistance. Ahed Tamimi is currently awaiting trial for the assault on the Israeli soldier. Now, Germany's finally getting a working government more than 5 months after the election. And despite the wait, German voters are ending up with more of the same, with the Social Democrats finally agreeing to a deal with Chancellor Merkel's Christian Democrats to create another so-called Grand Coalition. It's the same partnership that's governed since 2013, and it means Chancellor Merkel will enter her 13th year in power and commence her 4th term in charge. Getting to this point was far from easy, though, with more than a few obstacles hampering drawn-out talks, like the issue of immigration, which proved to be one of the most divisive in the talks. Merkel's Conservatives had yielded to push for a cap on how many refugees to allow in, but that left rebels within the Social Democrats deeply unhappy. Our Europe correspondent, Peter Oliver, looks at how the division might affect their future cooperation.
When Germany finally gets round to having a government again, one of the main issues it's going to face is the number of small towns and cities that have slammed the door in the face of migrants, flat out saying they're not going to take any more foreigners. The latest is Pirmasens in the southwest, close to the French border. The town took in more than 1,000 asylum applicants, most of whom were successful. Pirmasens had been a centre for footwear manufacturing, but with those jobs long gone, it slipped into steady economic decline. Now the mayor's office has said they simply don't have the money to take anyone else, and the state government has agreed with them, for now anyway.
We are ready to provide short-term help to Pirmasens, as the town is in a unique situation.
The mayor has come out this week and thanked the government for giving us a breather, but locals say this simply had to happen.
We really don't have enough money, I think. I mean, especially the city here.
I know that it is a problem in school, in the kindergarten, because they have not enough teachers. Also, there are poor people in Germany, and in Pirmasens there are a lot of poor people, and so the people here in Pirmasens say, don't take so a lot of refugees.
If Pirmasens had more money, then they could take more refugees. But that must be paid by the government.
It's not the only town to impose similar measures. Earlier this year, I visited Cottbus, around 120 kilometres or so from Berlin. It's imposed a stop on asylum applicants. That's after a number of violent incidents involving refugees and far-right groups.
Germany should start controlling its borders and stop the uncontrolled migration that has been going on for 2.5 years. And Merkel must go. The government should change, or it won't get any better.
There are different reasons why people have to flee, but we have to distinguish those from economic reasons. Those who truly seek refuge should be granted asylum status, but we need to separate between those who really look for shelter and those young, strong and mobile men who managed to get all the way to Germany.
And in February, Freiburg in Saxony took action to halt the arrival of more refugees for the next 4 years, saying there just wasn't enough kindergarten and school places in the town.
We are not xenophobic, which we are often accused of being. We are dealing with integration. We want to guarantee integration. We have done a lot, but when in the end there is no space, what are we supposed to do?
This summer, it'll be 3 years since Angela Merkel opened Germany to refugees and migrants, and the consequences of that decision are still weighing heavy on the country's small towns. Peter Oliver, RT, Berlin.
We have some news now that's just come in. A small apartment building has collapsed in Poland, killing at least 4 people and injuring 22 more. 3 of the injured are reported to be in a grave condition, including a child. The incident took place in a 4-storey tenement building in the western city of Poznan. It's not yet known why the building collapsed, but investigators are looking into whether it may have been caused by a gas leak from a faulty gas cylinder in one of the apartments. You've been watching The Weekly here on RT International. I'll be back at the top of the hour with another roundup, so do stay with us.
operation of the machine becomes so odious, makes you so sick at heart that you can't take part. You can't even passively take part. And you've got to put your bodies upon the gears and upon the wheels, upon the levers, upon all the apparatus, and you've got to make it stop. And you've got to indicate to the people who run it, to the people who own it, that unless you're free, the machine will be prevented from working at all.
All I wanted was the naked truth. Ever since my date of birth, I could never understand the ones who denigrate the word for no reason but their own treason, eager to murder a turkey because it is the season. Telling the truth to some, it's against the law. They can get their tongues cut out and buried in the shore. Don't lie, you won't hide the purpose. There's no ride that's worth it, so go try the circus. On every level you rebel, this devil's Babylon. They trying to turn your whole entire family to Babylon. Their stories falling quicker than the avalanche. They don't have a chance, that's why they keep them spinning on their Gravitron. All I want is the naked truth. All I want is the naked truth. All I want is the naked truth. All I want is the unadulterated naked truth.
Disconnect your television. Please disconnect your television.
While they got you looking for flying saucers, Bigfoot and Loch Ness monsters, hiding the blatant agenda they're using to divide and conquer. Backed by billionaires, they gotta hide they sponsor, while they ridicule anyone who tries to prompt ya. I told you the system's rotten to the core. It's top heavy with pedophiles who love war. Deranged harlots walking your red carpets, idolized for making straight brain dead garbage. They laughing at you cause you don't know how to turn the channel, putting honey boo-boo on the motherfucking learning channel. I never thought a Luciferian limelight shine bright as this. I think it's ruined your eyesight. The naked truth is all I seek. The naked truth is all I speak. The naked truth. The naked truth. All I want is the unadulterated naked truth.
Disconnect your television. Please disconnect your television.
Very few things impede the truth I'm trying to give to you. More than that Zionist demon box flickering in your living room. An old design, heavily controlled by swine, manufactured to mold your mind. Your television is devoid of reason. It broke up your family unit and destroyed your freedom. Your television has jammed the cohesion. Trust me, they call it programming for a reason. Just cause it isn't fully recognized yet, don't mean there ain't a great genocide in effect. The evidence is overwhelming and they hate the proof. They hate me too, cause all I'm trying to tell you is the naked truth.
We are rapidly approaching a moment of truth, both for ourselves as human beings and for the life of our nation. Now, truth is not always a pleasant thing, but it is necessary now to make a choice.
Disconnect your television. Please disconnect your television.
Yeah, it's the one and only. You feel the burn? I'm about to excoriate them. You ready to learn? Bernie and Hillary supporters, mindless, sycophantic, social justice warriors. What you fighting for? You fighting for freedom, transgenders? I endorse the lesser of two evils, only because you people hate them. And you know what? I fucking love it. I fucking love it. Hey, yo. Go in. You're looking in all of the wrong directions for solutions. The problems that don't exist, yes, you've been chasing these illusions. Apple falls on your head, you get a delusion, like Isaac Newton when he thought that he was a lumen. I had a suspicion, but now it is my conclusion. Your mathematicians and your malfeasance has been proven. The ultimate victim you've been playing and portraying, and the shit that you've been saying, it's gonna lead to something gruesome. The jig is up, no more faking persecution. The retribution will result in your execution. The enemy better be ready to pay the restitution, and all of the penalties concomitant with his intrusion. I cannot inhabit a place where the profusion of lies threaten demise of everything that's human. It's time to remove the band-aid and keep it moving. Extract the parasite and give the host a transfusion. There's no turning back, the plans have been laid. No games will be played, no compromises made. The monsters won't be spared when everything gets weighed. I'm throwing the grenade, the dragon will be slain. There's no turning back, the plans have been laid. No games will be played, no compromises made. The monsters won't be spared when everything gets weighed. I'm throwing the grenade, the dragon must be slain. Cold, harsh place, we are living. Nothing granted, nothing given. Only rented, only borrowed. If they could, they would disarm you tomorrow. How far gone will things have to be for you to finally agree with the things that I see? Caution must be thrown to the wind once you understand the problem if you're grown and you're men. Until you acknowledge the room for improvement, there will always be lingering doom in your movement. Your cognitive dissonance makes it half impossible to grasp the logical fact you're dealing with pathological behavior. It's like you want them to enslave you and make you all complacent when they offer you a savior. I wager every iota of hope is lost as long as you keep walking around believing in some sober cause. There's no turning back, the plans have been laid. No games will be played, no compromises made. The monsters won't be spared when everything gets weighed. I'm throwing the grenade, the dragon will be slain. There's no turning back, the plans have been laid. No games will be played, no compromises made. The monsters won't be spared when everything gets weighed. I'm throwing the grenade, the dragon must be slain. I'm a psychiatrist, I don't need a piece of paper to pick up a DSM and see your motherfuckers are crazy. Thinking you're chosen by some god that you invented. See, that's the dictionary definition of demented. When the host wakes up, that's something you cannot afford. You see, you've normalized shit that should be rightfully deplored. The second to the last resort's to strap you to a board. Either way, chin up, sweetheart, somehow we're gonna get you cured. It's an actor's paradise, they got you chasing ghosts. Extract the parasites, resuscitate the host. It happens every time, that cannot be denied. But it's a special time, cause it's gonna be worldwide. Feel like all your little girls imitating all these cheap Hollywood whores? Who the fuck you think put them there and keeps them there, gives them awards? It's an actor's paradise, you better stop chasing ghosts. Extract the parasites, resuscitate the host. It's time for me to drop that bass, replace it with an 808. I sucked away the soul. If this was all you think it's great. Parasites have sexual piss, you've been relegated to a safe space. Call this a macro smack, you make me wanna break your face. Most wouldn't know the truth if it hit them. Smack dab in the head, they are victims. They are falling for the trick and they're all up on the dip of a sycophant and quicker with victim. For 30 measly shekels, they'll kill their fucking mother, rob their father, pimp their sister. This is why I'm trying to talk to my brother. There's no turning back, the plans have been laid. No games will be played, no compromises made. The monsters won't be spared when everything gets weighed. I'm throwing the grenade, the dragon will be slain. There's no turning back, the plans have been laid. No games will be played, no compromises made. The monsters won't be spared when everything gets weighed. I'm throwing the grenade, the dragon must be slain. Dragon must be slain, 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 dragon must be slain. a parasitical committee. They're on the titty of sympathy, and it's a pity. Sucking American tax money, bloody Valentine. $4 billion a year to murder Palestine. Get yourself out of the daze. Your Zionist demon boxes lying and scheming, got you crying and screaming about some game that you lost. Like you played for the team, and it's a shame that you lost. You're dealing with predators trying to murder the messenger. Let us get to the root of the real evil, satanic or secular. Making a promise to make it atomic and become a sponsor. I'm seeing the carnage, and to be honest, I'm becoming a monster. The asymmetrical warfare declared on people unprepared is sickening and sad. You gotta be out of your fucking mind to call these people your friend. Murder your television, then reload and do that shit again. How you expect people not to fight back when they keep finding themselves under constant attack? If you think it can't happen to you, that's whack. Throw a rock at a tank and get shot in the back. I said, how you expect people not to fight back when they keep finding themselves under constant attack? If you think it can't happen to you, that's whack. Throw a rock at a tank and get shot in the back. Abduction line. Your call is very important to us. Please listen to the entire message as our menu options have changed. If your child has been abducted from the United States, press 1. Into the United States, press 2. To a third world country, press 3. If your child has been abducted from the United States or to the United States and subsequently to a third world country, press 4. Hey yo, Pop, just got my new black robe, my bench, my new hammer. Representing Saturn, the inhibitor. Up in this motherfucker running rings around it. The mere fact it's a felony, it's got me hurting like, wish it was a misdemeanor, I'd be murking it more. I'm not overly concerned with what you heard on the call. All I have in this world is my word and my balls. So if I testify, you can bet your bottom buck. I do not invest in lies, understand I got them stuck. I'm the judge if here. You babble on the stand, it can get abrupt. I will put the gavel in my hand and just crush your nuts. I will treat you like a stepchild, chill. If the demons don't get you, then the reptiles will. So understand your selections in jest. I possess projectiles that put impressions in vests. I'm the greatest of all time, maybe second at best. Comparisons of apples and oranges, checkers and chess. You all go broke like molesters confess. You like a talk show host trying to pester your guests. You could call me Phil Donahue cause I'm blessed to take a mic and make it like you didn't never exist. You think a black robe and a bench is keeping you blessed? I got your number now, don't think I don't know your address. 1-900 murder, 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 murder. Murder, I wonder. 1-900 murder, 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 murder. Murder by number. Murder 1-900 murder, 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 murder. Murder, I wonder. Murder 1-900 murder, 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 murder. Murder, murder by number. Hey, I just got off the phone with that stupid, clueless, goofy judge wondering how I got his number. You don't know I got his address too. You wanna start playing God, motherfucker? You wanna take a trip to the sky? I'll take you there. Put your hand under your thigh and make you swear. Just know you're betting your balls in whatever you say. And I'm clever with a cleaver, I will send him away. With one single lie, the questions of veracity. I don't tolerate a scintilla of mendacity. Barring any unforeseen catastrophe, the Roman in me says that that's the way it has to be. Your double standards don't fit into my plan, fucker. I will chop your balls off right on the stand, sucker. It's not a threat or a plan of attack. It's not even a promise, yo. It's just a matter of fact. Creatures like you don't deserve to exist in the capacity you do, so my purpose is this: to take you off of your pedestal now before your arrogance and loft gets ever more foul. I won't be using a phone the next time I call back. Lying in my court, you will never get your balls back.
Look at Mr. Sweetie, all this is recorded. The RCMP is recording everything you said.
Fuck you and the RCMP. Get on your horse, judge, come down and see me. Sending FBI minions to my door, don't bother me a bit, cause I dealt with them before. To your judicial misconduct, there's no comparison. Your malfeasance is so blatant, it's embarrassing. You let an abductor escape, again with my child. Understand that's equivalent to rape. That shit ain't funny, judge, you need a better style. 9 out of 10, you a motherfucking pedophile. Everything you said made me wanna chuckle. I wish I could shake your hand, I would break your fucking knuckles. You a goofy motherfucker. You played with kid gloves with this motherfucking abductor. Evidence that I submitted had her ass caught. You should have fined her and took a motherfucking passport. The bottom line is the fact you didn't respect the law. You let my daughter get snatched to motherfucking Ecuador. Who the fuck do you think you are? You ain't God and you are not a superstar. In other words, you are not untouchable. I know where you vacation at. I can fuck with you. Matter of fact, I'm about to get back to nature. If I see you in your habitat, I will decapitate you. 100 murder, 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 murder. Murder, I wonder. 100 murder, 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 murder. Murder by number. Murder 100 murder, 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 murder. Murder, I wonder. Murder 100 murder, 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 murder. Murder, murder by numbers. When they openly tell you that 43% of them are of the 1%, you know without reproach, without doubt, that you are in the right. These people, the temerity they exhibit is something that has got them expelled 109 times in the last 2,500 years. International organized Jewry. It's subversive in its breadth and scope. It can't be denied. One more time. International organized Jewry. They got your kids hooked on Israeli dope. Luciferian limelight. After my 25th suspension from Twitter, I have had enough. I'm aiming to eradicate these Hasbarats and such. For them to beat me at this game, it is unlikely. Why they keep on crying out in pain as they strike me? That's the Polish proverb, and it's accurate. Today, more than ever, you could say I'm an advocate of staying vigilant, diligent, and passionate. If you see me at their party, best believe I'm crashing it. Don't be so cocky, mister. Listen to Bobby Fischer. I'm forced to pick my favorite leader, then it's probably Hitler. Yahudi's got your government drunk off their Nazi liquor. That's why I decorated my wall with Gaddafi's picture. I'm gonna pull the trigger. Don't care how much they bicker. They bitch and moan, but it's been shown that they are prone to slither. Don't let them trick you with their treachery and get you sicker. Suffering from anti-Semititis, I got the elixir. International organized Jewry. It's subversive in its breadth and scope. You can't not see that. International organized Jewry. What you doing? They got your kids hooked on Israeli dope. It's deleterious. The judicial system is bent on sticking my type in prison. They don't like the wisdom we've been spitting from a sniper's vision. We are quite efficient, even with a slight incision. Honey, if you like precision, you have made the right decision. By their own admission, they delight in division. It's a tight condition trying to unite the schism. They destroy with the joy and without attrition. Shabbat goy they employ, know the algorithms. Now they've inundated you with lots of queers, crying crocodile tears, bottleneck profiteers. They are not subject to their common law, teaching you with common core, make you call your mama whore. Propagators of a global mind fuck, telling you race and gender is a social construct. I don't hate faggots, but homo, take it easy, confused, chopping off your wee-wee, I'ma call you Ishi. You can thank International organized Jewry. They made me do it. It's subversive in its breadth and scope. It's so subversive. One more time. International organized Jewry. You always do it. They own your president and pedo pope. Let me touch on Freemasonry here for a moment. I am the antithesis of a proponent. I have got things that prove and simply shown it. Judaism for the Gentiles. Don't mistake my sentiment here, they are not super. But over the years they have learned how to dupe ya. You should come to your sense and get used to all these parasites and reptiles. Every single atrocity that's ever been listed. Look a little bit closer and you will see these misfits. They sunk the Titanic, how on earth you miss it? Iceberg, Steinberg, what's the fucking difference? I know you do this shit. If your coffee gets cold, some little Jew probably came by and blew on it. Even Ben Franklin lit the campfires. He told you that vampires can't live with vampires. You fucking dummy. International organized Jewry. That's a fact that only a clown would miss. You really gotta be a clown. International organized Jewry. If not for that, this world would be such bliss. Without a doubt. is up. Leprechaun. The whole world is watching as you do your little river dance, inching your way into territory in which you don't belong. International organized Jewry. It's subversive in its breadth and scope. International organized Jewry. They got your kids hooked on Israeli dope. Yeah. The gold reserve got my tongue super loose and comfortably numb, more focused than ever and ready for whatever's to come. While Big Pharma got the populace wonderfully dumb, addicted to deadly drugs to keep them under their thumb. You're dealing with scum, handsomely paid to peddle poison. Enjoy something that grows out of the ground, that annoys them, destroy them. Let them know you're privy to their thin scam. Stand tall, don't ever fall for the flim flam. Most politicians are supporters of NAMBLA and actors who follow a script similar to Tony Danza. Who's the boss? It'll cost if you're a gambler. I'll disappear you off of the grid like Adam Lanza. My mantra, incarcerate inquisitors and put them on serotonin reuptake inhibitors. Pharmaceutical giants should lose all privileges, incarcerate their contributors, strip them of their visitors. All I got is a gold pot to piss in, a pole pot position, controlled opposition. They won't stop the mission, they don't got the vision. My cold got them shivering, I'm so hot, I'm sizzling. I am not a slave to the rhythm. The rhythm is a victim of an ancient predilection that I give them. The law of nature on which I base the decision. Obama was the president, but I voted for Shirley Chisholm. Sharks might not be surrounding you yet, but you just wait till the moment that you're drowning in debt. You'll be so much more than upset. You'll be loading your weapon, step into the eye of the threat. Sharks, they are all around you. One drop of blood and they start to surround you. You better stop talking to skanks. They seduce you on the ship and you're walking the plank. The treatment you're receiving is no different from stepchilds. You keep swallowing semen of these demons and reptiles. When will you learn? Pyros are working together, taking turns, and their only endeavor is to make it burn. Hey yo, I had enough of this. Justice Department suck my dick, fuck that bitch. I will force feed her the poison from a pufferfish. These snuffleupagus motherfuckers in love with this hot potato, but they won't even touch it with some oven mitts. Now that I understand the level of deceit, to keep these devils in their seat and let them peddle on the street. Their pathetic, apologetic rhetoric, they won't compete with the veracity and the tenacity that can't be beat. Suckers and tyrants, they both act as one. The best way to expose them is to make them act like one. Look at all these evil people making the killing. Literally, I'll make the gargoyles come to life and eat the people in your building. Sharks might not be surrounding you yet, but you just wait till the moment that you're drowning in debt. You'll be so much more than upset. You'll be loading your weapon, step into the eye of the threat. Sharks, they are all around you. One drop of blood and they start to surround you. You better stop talking to skanks. They seduce you on the ship and you're walking the plank. Word magic has let the oligarchy step on your voice. Man, I'm telling you, it's the pirate's favorite weapon of choice. Lady Liberty has been literally keeping people in misery. The context is more complex than the prison industry. They're parasitically feeding upon the citizenry, leading it, ritualistically feeding it. So habitually, America's in a crisis, getting massacred by ISIS. You could be Al-Qaeda, so your constitution don't mean shit to me. You look suspicious, miss. Step out your car, please. Civil forfeiture, we're collecting like Barclays. We'll take your cash and we'll wipe out your cars, please. And trying to get it back is worse than ripping out shark teeth. I hate to sound ungone, but all that does is cloud your mind. I hope you get to take some time away from shit that makes you blind. My self-contained underwater breathing apparatus lets me see these sharks for who they are and come report the status. Sharks might not be surrounding you yet, but you just wait till the moment that you're drowning in debt. You'll be so much more than upset. You'll be loading your weapon, step into the eye of the threat. Sharks, they are all around you. One drop of blood and they start to surround you. You better stop talking to skanks. They seduce you on the ship and you're walking the plank. Sharks, say what? Say what? Say what? Say what? Say what? Sharks. Say what? Although you can polygraph, I can see your sheepish laugh. You think you wanna feel the burn? I don't think you'll ever learn. You're gonna vote for Hillary? My homie calls her Hillary. Your two-party orgies for suckers and for chumps. That's why I'll be endorsing Mr. Trump. It's an endless battle for supremacy. You never know from day to day who just may be your enemy. You better learn how to navigate the bedlam, or chances are you just may have a date with red rum. You couldn't be that Pollyannish to think even a head of state couldn't simply vanish into the thick mist, going with the quickness, just like they gave the Goyim fiat money for Christmas. You're in deep doo-doo, it's a proven vet when communists are making promises to pay your student debt. All your leaders are beholden to a mutant set. I can't believe the Goyim haven't figured out it's Jewish yet. Shape-shifters, their innate gifting, making races hate to cause great divisions. Posing as the builders, but they hate lifting. They can play the evil Muslim or the great Christian. Demons and reptiles run your little two-party orgy, Goyim.
The greatest theft in the history of the world.
He's getting too tribal with Gentiles and they're out to destroy him.
Some of them will move a company out of the United States if they can save $2.
The demons will disarm you and invade your life. The reptilians will make you pay the price. The lizard and the devil both say they're nice, but no matter who you pick, you get major strife. Forget the silly things that you say you heard. The opposite wings of the same foul bird. That means they both move at the same damn pace. That means they both gone to the same damn place. There hasn't been a man since Huey P. Long to have this establishment panicking and moving so strong. To subvert the will of the people, which is spoken so loud. They convinced a couple of sheep, but they can't move a crowd. You milk toast liberals, what the fuck did you want? I don't give a flying fuck what you say about Don. You're a prankster, source like lackey. Trump is a gangster, not beholden to violence. Demons and reptiles run your little two-party orgy. Goyim.
Soft, weak, little baby.
He's getting too tribal with Gentiles and they're out to destroy him.
And all they do to them is just good.
Practitioners of pedophilia, that is who's running America. Just read Encyclopedia Judaica and you'll see all the Talmudic hysteria. Mr. Dershowitz, look me in the eye when I talk to you. Do you understand all the charges that were brought to you? Has your counsel recommended everything you ought to do? Have you been advised of all the options we afford to you? The prosecution is prepared to offer you a plea. They say they've identified Jane Doe number 3. Virginia Roberts photograph, nude front to lead with you, Mr. Dershowitz. Do you want to see? That's what I thought. We can make it all inadmissible if you be a good sport. Admit you got caught and don't let me see a cheeky little beady-eyed rat face in my court. And I'll retain this for the future. In the event we feel the need to prosecute you. And the world will never get to see you minus your clothes. If you remain on your toes, remember anything goes. Practitioners of pedophilia. That is who's running America. Just read Encyclopedia Judaica and you'll see all of the Talmudic hysteria. Obama and his first lady boy had a little taste. The late Joan Rivers spilled the beans on his little case. We all know Michelle is a tranny. Why, you can tell by the little swell in her panties. Larry doesn't have to worry about a cycle. It's no wonder why he accidentally called her Michael. Shoulders, uncanny, spooky. Biceps more manly than Danny Bonaducci. But that's just the tip of the obelisk. Shit so deep happening you cannot swallow this. Slavery is in everything that you use. From your smartphone to your chocolate to your shoes. Parents hand over their kids thinking they gon' get paid, but then they get bought and sold as a slave. Your little boys are taught to be queers. Your girls are being trained as hoes. When dealing with those, remember anything goes. Practitioners of pedophilia. That's who. That is who's running America. Just read Encyclopedia Judaica, and you'll see all of the Talmudic hysteria. If you want to know the agenda, I'm telling you the purpose in. Take a look at who they got your little kids worshiping. These cowards love a dead target, looking for whom they roll out the red carpet. I call it Luciferian limelight. Diddling kids to them is nothing but divine right. You must be a genius to let a rabbi suck the blood from your little baby's penis. They want that the way of the future. You got something different to say and they'll shoot you. This is just a little star in the galaxy. Next they plan to normalize bestiality. If you knew where it went, you'd be shocked. This kind of behavior is sanctioned at the top. Obama, Epstein, Dershowitz, and Bill Clinton exposed. In the next episode, remember anything goes. Watch out for these practitioners of pedophilia. They're all over. That is who's running America. Just read Encyclopedia Judaica, and you'll see all of the Talmudic hysteria.
I'll let you say a sentence, maybe two, max, until I think of my next diatribe, and then you better get ready to listen, because that's your place. So listen, yeah? You all need to become better listeners, okay? You need to listen to me talk. I got a lot to say, and you got a lot to listen to, all right? Because I started this movement, and you want to be part of it, you better get ready to listen to me.
You just came onto the scene out of the clear blue. I'm listening to you motherfuckers, wondering who told you to come in here and poison the well. Every single thing I hear is annoying as hell. Holding my nose and avoiding the smell. See, I put this thing together, you're destroying the gel. You keep talking reckless, so I'm so proud to dish you. You hijack my message, now you're trying to cloud the issue. Confusing it with things that don't pertain. The most preposterous shit to make it seem insane. I made it easy for you people to explain, palpably to the sheeple how they're living on a plane. And this is what I get back in return. Bitches steering my course, hoping that it crash and it burn. No. All of these Hasbarats, they have to learn. Any respect they get from me, they have to earn from now on. Still think you were spinning. You were lost all up in the sauce. But I was here from the beginning. Hey, yo, they trying to jump all on our horse and steer it off course.
Now the cat's out of the bag, agents are stepping in, but truth seekers like ODD TV ain't gonna let them win. Nope, watching these videos, it's a shit show. It's Mark hanging with that red-headed bimbo. It's okay to be an info. I love to show my cleavage, come to me for your info. And past year admits she used to work for CBS, so when you see her show, everything you see is BS. Super repetitive, trauma-based mind control. Flat Earth Cruise brought to you by a hired troll. And then we got the next level agents like Neil deGrasse. If he said what he really knows, they would kill his ass. Shields will tell you the reasons to believe in gravity. They'll tell you Earth is photoshopped because it has to be. Shields to pay the bills, man, that's what it boils down to. They indeed live, and they're everywhere around you.
You were spinning. You were lost all up in the sauce. But I was here from the beginning. Patricia, get the fuck off of my horse. It's time to divorce. Einstein was a great plagiarist to begin, but even Einstein said he couldn't detect a spin. Now what on earth makes you think you can? Fact is, you've been tricked by duplicitous men. See, horizon means horizontal, that means level. Your lexicon has been infiltrated by little devils. They never been over the southern pole, it's all circular. Pilots scratching their head like, where's the curvature? But it don't matter how high you fly, it's all flat, from every altitude in the sky. You thought you could obtain that view, but just try, and you'll see the horizon always rises right to your eye. You give credence to cretins like Bill Nye. That lets me know right there you're not aware of the lie. I can't expect you to be in tune with it all. A year ago, you all thought you were spinning on a ball. You were lost all up in the sauce. But I was there from the beginning. Patricia, get the fuck off of my horse. It's time to divorce. Thanks to ODD TV. joining me as we expose the containment unit put into place to misdirect, misrepresent, and muddy the waters of the static plane. Message to missteer. Fuck your fake stability and your hot potatoes. And Mr. Sergeant, from a game design standpoint, it's clear to see you're an enemy. And an obvious operative. Let your handlers know you will not succeed in your attempts to mislead. No. I want to thank Mr. Eric Dubé, who's not afraid to point out the role that international organized jewelry has played. He's behind the resurgence of this movement. And anyone who has a problem with him has a problem with me. And is de facto chilling for the flat earth. Soon as they start to rabble, they are nothing but fishes in the barrel. It doesn't have to be Christmas for a carol. Some decorate with ornamental decorum. Some perform shotgun on Hanukkah and Purim. That's where my job come in. I am a blessing to the mercenary for the corporation selling weapons to them. Any potential competitor step into them. I'm authorized to knock them out and stick a GPS into them. They want to sell uranium to Iran that's enriched. That's a bitch.